Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. As Serbia enters Easter weekend, student-led protests, which started after the Novi Sad train station roof, which collapsed, killing 16, intensify. Barricades were erected outside a national broadcaster, RTS, and 80 Serbian students on bicycles met European lawmakers in Strasbourg on Wednesday. The 13-day journey from the city of Novi Sad made global headlines. Protesters are demanding media accountability and justice after the 1st November 2024 tragedy exposed deep-seated corruption. Joining us is Professor Ivanka Popović, former president of the University of Belgrade, to explore what's fueling this nationwide dissent and whether this grassroots uprising could reshape Serbia's future. As one protester said, the fight for truth must not stop. Professor, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon. So give us your overview of what's going on. I mean, the protests have been going on for 6 months. They're morphing into different areas. We've had the Serbian students, predominantly, cycling to Strasbourg. Give us a sense of what is happening.
Well, what I can tell you is that what we are living in the last 6 months is an intense unification of citizens who are responding to the repression and injustice that we are facing, because the students had very simple demands asking for a functioning state with rule of law and independent institutions, asking for a proper inquiry into the roof collapse. Also, they asked for peaceful protesters that were arrested to be released, and they were also asking for those who were responsible for these attacks to be processed. None of these demands have been met fully. There's been some whitewashing, but nothing has really happened. And these student protests have sort of opened up an energy of civilians, citizens, farmers, workers. The whole population seems to have finally come out of an acceptance that we live in a corrupt, captured state, and citizens are feeling that they do have a say in what's going on in our country. And I think this is something that is an irreversible change that has occurred.
Now, it's interesting that you say that. I need to interrupt you just for a second here. As you say, this has been going on for 6 months. It started as a student protest, but lots of others have joined in. It sounds as though there was something bubbling under, and has been for a much longer time than the 6 months. Also, the government the Prime Minister has stepped down, but that hasn't changed anything. I'd like you to address both of those, please.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, I agree with you. Something has been troubling Serbia for many years, because since the ruling party came into power 13 years ago, there's been a steady stifling of independent institutions and an increase in corruption, that we're slowly getting a government that's not serving the people, but that is actually using state resources for their own benefit. And somehow things came to a head with this terrible tragedy in Novi Sad. It was also sort of a wake-up call, and the students were first to respond. And I think people want to take destiny into their own hands and say, yes, government should be in place, but to serve the needs of the citizens, not to make money off the citizens. So this is what we have now. On the other hand, the student protests started by asking for rule of law, not asking for any kind of change of government. But as there is no response to their demands, what we see slowly is a student-led movement that is wanting to see change. And as the government is not responding, there are requests for either that there is a general strike, that there are new elections, that there is a transitional government. At any rate, we are in a deep, deep political crisis, and something has to change. But Mr. Vučić is apparently not willing to yield, and he has identified the university as the source of his problems. And as you saw, the rector as the leader of this revolt, although it is quite clear that this was a completely independent student movement and that the students then slowly pulled everyone else in. So it's an unprecedented situation that you had a rector, a president of a university being interrogated by the police as the organizer and inciter of these demonstrations.
Indeed, you mentioned the rector, and I think we've got a short soundbite here which I'd like us to share, and then I'll take your view.
Yesterday I received a summons to appear before the police concerning criminal allegations filed against me for abuse of office. In accordance with the laws of this country, I appeared today and provided a statement to the police asserting my belief that I have not committed any offense, including abuse of office. These allegations are filed not just against me, but they rather implicate all members of the academic community who have endeavored for months to somehow articulate and bring certain decisions that were initiated by students, endorsed by academics, and backed by the citizens of this country.
Now, Professor, it seems to me as though President Vucic's government is really not sure what to do. And so they're picking on the rector because
Exactly.
this was all started by students. But is that your view too? I mean, what else could they do? Apart from, of course, what the students want.
As you know, the student protests are organized in such a way that there are no student leaders. It's a collective organization, and the students have very carefully avoided actually exposing any individual students to the limelight, in this way trying to keep them safe. Of course, the rector stepped forward immediately, as has all the academic staff, to support the students, not only at the University of Belgrade, but at many other universities in Serbia. So let's say this is a joint effort now. But I think what we've seen since 2017 is a steady strangulation of academic institutions by the government. It means that academic autonomy and integrity are slowly being compromised, limited, and actually somehow the state would like to turn universities into schools that they can fully control. There's no full comprehension of the importance of an academic institution, of a university, to the development of a country. And it's something that the University of Belgrade is more than 200 years old. It's a sort of almost about the same age as many other universities, older ones in Europe. And I think that it's very important to say it's a major building block of the future and of the past of this country. It's something that enabled educated people to make changes in this country, and to actually destroy such an institution has unforeseeable consequences. So it must
do you think
be
that's
stopped.
do you think that's the intent? I mean, that the government is simply using this as an excuse to perhaps replace the rector with someone who's more in line with their views?
Absolutely. I think they will do everything that they can, not only to replace this rector, but other rectors and also other deans of faculties, because they would like people who would be, let's say, more cooperative to their needs. And I don't think that this will be an easy task for them, because I think the resistance now, after what happened this morning with the rector's interrogation and the police, I think it just that people will not take it.
In the last minute or so that we have left, Professor, there's been a bit of a scandal around Russians who have been sanctioned by Europe being given Serbian passports to help them get around those sanctions and restrictions on travel, for example. What can you share about that?
Well, there has been an extensive study by Serbian and Russian investigative reporters who have found out that since the invasion of Ukraine till April 2025, that more than 200 Russian nationals have been given Serbian nationality and passports based on the sort of that this is something of great importance for the Serbian state. These are, of course, people that will not benefit Serbian citizens, but they might benefit the government, because these seem to be people who are profiteering from the war, that are close to security organizations in Russia, or possibly oligarchs. So I think, we have more than 200,000 Russians came to Serbia after the invasion, but many of them are, people who wanted to get away from the situation in Russia. But these 204 that seem to have registered and gotten these passports, they seem to be in a completely different category. Right. And I'm sure that there is a purpose there that goes beyond what citizens of Serbia really need.
And perhaps we'll find more out about that in the not too distant future. Professor Popović, thank you very much indeed for sharing your insights with our audience. Have a good evening.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
And that's all from this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.